Welcome, writers, readers, and friends to the Authors Talking Bookish podcast. I'm Donna Norman Carbone, author of All That Is Sacred.
And I'm Hope Gibbs, author of Where the Grass Grows Blue.
We're two debut writers traditionally published by a small publishing house, bringing to you all the experiences that we as authors learn the hard way, so you don't have to.
We'll give you insights from the inception of a book idea to publication and beyond. And along the way, we'll share our love of books from the writer's perspective.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to Authors Talking Bookish. It's episode 40, and today we're very excited because we have an interview with author Sarahlyn Bruck. So, hello, Hope.
Hello, Donna. I am so excited when we get to talk with authors and we get to talk about their books and their road to publication and things that they learned the hard way. And so just offering some tips and inspiration. And I did a deep dive on Sarah, and I can't wait to discuss her 3 books, especially her latest book. So I think we should just bring her on in. So I'm going to say hello. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, how's it going, Donna and Hope?
Hello, how are you? Welcome.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. We've had a number of authors on, and no two of them are the same. We learned so many different things from everybody. So thank you for being here and sharing your insights.
Thanks. You're so right. I feel like there's so many ways to get this career right. So yeah, I've had the same experience.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, we want to give our audience a little bit about your background. Sarahlyn writes contemporary book club fiction, slice of life stories with heart and humor centered on friendships and family. She is an award-winning author of 3 novels, Light of the Fire, Daytime Drama, I love that title, and Designer You. When she's not writing, Sarahlyn moonlights as a full-time writing and literature professor at a local community college. Originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, she now lives in Philadelphia with her family. And well, congratulations on the Super Bowl.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, it's been pretty bonkers around here.
Are you fans?
I'm kind of a fair weather fan. Like I watched the last 2 games.
That's me with sports.
It's I don't know. I haven't been keeping up, but it's been really fun. It's the funny thing is that they are so sports centric here. And I also didn't, like grow up here. I grew up in the Bay Area. And so they're just not they love the 49ers there, but they are like they take it to the next level here in Philadelphia. And so so when I moved here, I was kind of taken aback by how aggro they are. But they've been in a great mood. It's so funny just to see the city just lighten up. Everything, all of the buildings have been lit in green, and it's been kind of a beautiful few weeks. So
yeah, that's exciting. My husband was born in Philly, but he moved to the South when he was younger. But all of his first cousins, they all live up in that area, and they're Philly fans. And I'll never forget, one of his cousins was down here visiting us. They won the World Series that year, and we were out with him that night, and he was already panicked about the next year. Like he was already like, oh, next year. And I was like, you just won the World Series, so maybe enjoy it. But I think that's just kind of their thing. They're always, they're supportive fans.
Very, very supportive is a good way to put it.
Well, let's just get right to this. Your books, first off, you've written 3, and they all are beautiful covers. Your latest book is Light of the Fire, and I want to talk a little bit about this one. Could you give everyone a synopsis on this book?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Light of the Fire centers around 2 estranged high school besties and former soccer teammates who are forced to face a 20-year-old accident that was blamed unfairly on someone else, something that they've kept secret for all these years and that destroyed their friendship, actually. So now, when circumstances bring the 2 friends back together again, they have to decide to what extent they're going to go to keep the secret hidden or finally face the consequences of coming clean. And in the end, it's a story about the power of friendship, about forgiveness, and healing from past mistakes.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
you also just won some awards. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, I just found out not too long ago that it won 3 Zibby Awards
Yeah, that's
for best.
exciting.
Yeah, it was, and she has in her awards are because she owns a Zibby Owens. I don't know if you know who
Mhm.
she is, but she's a book influencer and a publisher and a bookshop owner, and she has a bookshop in Santa Monica. And her awards, I think, are according to some of the categories that they
Yeah.
have bookshop. So Light of the Fire won 3, and it was for like best book for a best friend, best sports book, and best beach read.
Yeah, I love she
Yes.
organizes her bookstore like that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
so cool.
And doing some research on this book, the 2 girls, they're soccer players. And I know that you have experience with soccer because you played soccer up until recently. I think you said you had to give it up because of bad ankles. But then your daughter, so you were also a soccer player, but you're also a soccer mom. So talk a little bit about how that component worked its way in this book and how it really brought the characters together.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And I also, just because I had so much experience playing and also as a soccer mom, I also learned how much I really didn't know about being a professional soccer player.
Mm,
So I thought I was going to come in and it was going to be easy breezy. I was going to really understand, where these players were coming from. And I think with Beth, who is the professional, she's a
mhm,
professional soccer player, plays for a women's professional team as a goalie, and I didn't really know like that much about what their life was really like. And
mhm.
I was so lucky to be able to talk with someone who played for the US women's national team
Oh, wow.
back, like 10 or 15 years ago. And she was
Mm,
able to tell me, like, okay, so how much do you travel? What does your diet look like? What does your day to day look like? So, all of those kind of practical things, I was really hoping to get right. And she was generous enough to share with me her experience. So that really, really helped shape that character. But as far as my own experience, I don't know. I just felt like because it was such a big part of my life, for basically my entire life,
mm.
I was like, I was going to have to write about soccer at some point, like I had played for so long. And then my daughter, Virginia, also played and she just loved it just like I did. And I was like, I have to be able to incorporate this into a story at some point.
That's right. We write what we know,
We
right?
do.
I
We
feel
do.
every book. What about your other 2 books? Are there any facets of your life that comes through in the other 2 books?
Yeah, my first book is about a young widow,
Mhm,
and she loses her husband really suddenly, and
mhm,
she is the parent of a teenager.
mhm,
And my mom actually lost my dad when she was relatively young. She wasn't in her
mm.
40s, but she was in her mid 50s, and
Oh,
it was such. And it wasn't sudden, it wasn't an accident or something like that, but
mhm,
it was still a shock, and it was such an adjustment. And she had my youngest brother was a teenager at the time, and I just
mm,
watched the 2 of them, really struggle for a while and really also come together, and they have such a deep, loving relationship. And
mm.
I think, they would have anyway, but I think that it looks different now
Yeah,
because he was so much younger. I'm the oldest of 4, and there's like a
mhm,
13-year difference between my youngest brother and I. And so
mm,
he was kind of, in many ways, kind of had the life of an only child. And I really kind of
oh,
wanted to get into my mom's shoes and see what that felt like.
mhm,
And then my second book takes place in the world of soap operas.
mhm.
And and
I love
that
soap operas. That is when I was younger. I don't watch them now, but I loved them.
so did I. What was your favorite one?
Oh, I was Guiding Light and As the World Turns all the way. I was named after a soap opera character, so I'm gonna have to read this book.
Okay. Okay.
I was General Hospital.
General Hospital. So were you both, it sounds like you both were ABC soap fans.
I was CBS.
Yeah,
CBS was a
I
guiding
was
light, and
ABC.
As the World Turns. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched the NBC one. So
Isn't that we all represent?
we're all representing here.
Yeah.
Yes. That's very important.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had before I moved to Philly in '07, and we had moved from Los Angeles, and my husband was an editor. So he worked in the film industry for a little while. And I was in grad school, and I was kind of removed from all of that. But it was such a fun place to be an observer, because I was kind of surrounded by all of these crazy, cool, smart, funny creatives, and they weren't just like actors or something. They were editors and directors and scene designers. And, they were just so fun to be around. And I really wanted to kind of get back into that when we moved here, because I started writing this, I think, in February. And I can't remember what year, but it was cold, just like it's cold right now. And I just wanted to be back in, sunny California. I was like, oh God, I know February feels like spring in LA. Sometimes it can be warm enough to be able to, take a dip in a pool or something. And I was like, I want that. There's snow on the ground. I'm miserable. So instead I just wrote that book, and it was a blast. It was really, really fun to write that one.
That's awesome.
Well, let's talk about your first two books and your road to publication, because getting a book in the world is hard. It's not impossible, as we all three have done this, but your first two books you published with a small press. And then your third book you signed with Lake Union. Can you talk about your first go around of getting your book published to getting a deal with Lake Union?
Sure. Yeah. So my first book, Designer You, and I do love that book. But I had sent it around to agents. I knew that I didn't want to self-publish, because I know how much work goes into that. And I have a full-time job, and I do other things. I married, and I have a kid, and it's just like I just have a really busy life. And I knew that in order to self-publish, that would take a huge commitment. And so I tried to look for agents at first, and I got lots of positive feedback from agents, but in the end, they didn't know where to place it. It was kind of a smaller story. It wasn't like a dystopian, or it wasn't, romantasy, or it wasn't anything like that. It was just kind of a smaller story about family, about this mother and daughter, essentially. And so I ended up submitting to small publishers, and I got lots of nice feedback, and I got a few bites. And I went with a small publisher called Crooked Cat Books, and they put that book out there. And when it came time to write my second book, they were shifting gears and getting out of what I write, which is women's fiction or book club fiction.
Yeah.
And really focusing on crime and mystery and thrillers. So we said a mutual thank you very much, goodbye, hope all is well, and good luck, and all of that kind of stuff. And they gave me my rights back. So I ended up self-publishing that first book on my own. They let me keep the cover. They let me keep all of the interior design. So really all I had to do was kind of just sign it into my own name and put my own ISBNs on there. And I learned a lot, and it was still a lot of work, but I don't think it was the amount of work that somebody who goes in, so with the idea that they're going to self-publish. But it was a good learning experience. And then with my second book, I went with another small publisher, and they ended up going out of business. So they also gave my rights back to me. That one, the cover, I didn't like as much as my first book, the original cover. So I actually decided to hire a cover designer, and I changed the cover on that book. And then I learned how to format the inside of the book. And that was actually kind of a fun learning experience. I did that over a summer,
Mm.
and that was a worthwhile experience. And now the book is back out in the world. And then after that book initially came out in 2021, I had written Light of the Fire,
Mhm.
and I queried agents, and one agent who had rejected daytime drama said, I don't know if I can sell this, but if you would please resubmit when you have something else. So I did, and she ended up signing me. So
Oh,
we
nice.
went out and on submission, and she sold the book to Lake Union, and the rest
Oh,
is history.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Thanks.
That's
Yeah, I love her.
that's quite an interesting journey.
Yeah, it's
And,
definitely circuitous.
when you started talking about formatting the book, I think I had a pit in my stomach because that was the point that I was kind of like,
Yeah.
no, there's no way that I
Mhm.
could self-publish. So I give you huge kudos.
There's software now that's very helpful. I think
Yeah,
Oh.
it's become easier too.
yeah.
So I think the whole landscape has changed now in
Yeah.
2025 than it was like 10 years ago or even
Yeah,
8 years ago,
Yeah.
I think it's easier.
yeah.
That's
Well,
so
that's
interesting
awesome.
because you've had a small press publishing journey.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Then to get your rights back, that's a whole other journey. Then you published, you learned all of this, and then you went out and got an agent and you're with a traditional publisher.
mhm.
So tell us what are some of the lessons, as we like to say, that you learned the hard way so we don't, you don't have to. What were some of the harder lessons that you took away from this experience and maybe some of the best things that happened because of it?
Yeah, I think like I I definitely don't see it as black and white. You know what I mean? I think like all of these experiences, even though they weren't what I anticipated or expected, I think I learned a ton from.
Mhm.
So even if my second small publisher wasn't what I was hoping for, the end result is that I still have my book. I have a
Mhm.
cover that I really love.
Mhm.
And I now know that I really want to be working with somebody at my side. I really want to partner in this process. I'm so grateful to my agent. And I also know that nothing is forever too. My
Yeah.
agent could
Right.
tomorrow say, you know what, I think I'm going to get into real estate and stop doing this.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
also know anything can happen at any time. So not holding on to those kinds of expectations, I think has kind of been to my benefit. And it might be because I'm a little bit older. I'm a middle-aged lady, so
Mhm.
it's like I've tended to kind of let go of lots of things,
Yeah.
or at least
Yeah.
not have those kinds of expectations
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
lots of things. And so
Yeah.
which means that I can pivot, I think, a little bit easier than perhaps somebody else.
So
Yeah.
in a coming episode, I think it's 2 episodes from now, Donna and I are going to be talking about pitches and how to pitch your book. And because you got an agent, you're with a big publisher. What was your elevator pitch? What was your pitch for this book?
Oh my god. That's such a good question. I forget what the pitch that it is now, like the back of the book jacket copy
Yeah.
was
Mm.
rewritten. It's been rewritten over and over and over again, you
Yeah.
know? So I don't even know what my original pitch was for that. Because I don't think we went out with like a 2-line anything. I had my original sort of book jacket copy that I think I used, and it was pretty similar probably to my query letter. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we used when we went out. But for the book that she's shopping around now, I did end up putting together like an elevator pitch. Let me see if I can find it. Um,
Oh, you're gonna share your elevator pitch for
Oh.
a new book?
for a
Or
new book.
Glad
Yeah, a
that's
new book that
awesome.
we're looking at. Let's
A
see.
little preview for our listeners.
A little preview. Yeah, logline for okay, so the new book is called Second Banana.
I love
I love
that.
that name.
We'll
That
see
is a
if they
catchy
like it.
name.
Okay. Okay, so Second Banana is a story about a washed-up improviser who, after being double-crossed by a former teammate 10 years ago, now plays a silent stuffed panda on a local children's television show. When the host of the show has a public meltdown and is forced to enter rehab, she has 8 weeks to prove she's no second banana but a star. Enter her estranged teammate, now an unhappy wife and mom, who's desperate for a life do-over. To reclaim each of their past promise, the two reluctantly partner up, yet as old resentments bubble to the surface, they both realize they are not about to give up their shot in the spotlight.
I love that.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about, because it can be daunting to write a pitch for your book. And sometimes people do it at the beginning, and some people have to panic and be like, how do I take 95,000 words and put it into a little letter, or worse, 2 lines?
I know. It's
And
so
also
hard.
we revise it over and over and over
yeah,
again,
we do.
as
Yeah.
you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what do you guys do first? Do you try and put together like a little log line or a pitch first, or do you do that after the book is written?
I try to do it first just to kind of wrap my mind around the big ideas of the story, but it changes,
Yeah.
by the time I'm done writing, because the book takes shape in ways that I didn't expect it to.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
you,
And
Hope?
so I didn't intend to write a book the first time around. So I obviously did everything at the end. Second book, I had the ending, but didn't have anything from there on. And with book 3 and 4, I am actually starting with a pitch, with an idea. But it's what works for you, and it may not work for you every single book.
That is
It's
so
just
true.
it's just what is right in that moment.
Yeah.
So we should have you on for that one. So I know Donna wants to talk to you about this. It's about balancing roles, because you and Donna have something very much in common. I'm the odd bird out here. You both teach. Talk, Donna. I know you're going to want to kind of lead this one.
Yeah, so I am a full-time teacher as well, so I know a little bit about juggling. I used to work at the college level, and right now I'm at the high school level, but I also teach writing and literature as you do.
Mhm.
So maybe tell us a little bit about your job and
Mhm.
how you see your job as a help to your writing, and how you see your writing as maybe a help to your job.
That's a good question. And I would love to hear what your response would be too, Donna, about this. But yeah, I teach all of the composition classes. So I teach like pre-freshman comp. I teach freshman comp 1 and 2. I teach some American literature, even though I've been kind of more focused on writing lately. I teach technical writing to like engineers and computer science majors. And then I also teach creative writing. So I kind of teach all of the writings to lots of different kinds of students, and students who, some of them really love to write, and that's their elective, like in a creative writing course. And many don't really love it, or they're ambivalent about it.
Yeah.
And so my challenge has always been, how do I make this as accessible for everyone? And hopefully make it so that they realize that their voice is their superpower, no matter where they're coming from, that is their superpower. ChatGPT is not, it's not a good way to figure out who your voice is. You have to do that for yourself. And that hard work is really, really worth it. And I think the majority of my students discover that. I think that they end up thinking, okay, yeah, I think I need to write my own stuff. And actually, I think this sounds pretty good. By the end of the semester, I think they're kind of patting themselves on the back a little bit. At least I hope so. And I learn from each and every one of those students, not just how to make my courses better for the next semester, but also I learn from how they learn it. Because as you said before, the writing process for each book is like, at least is different, and I'm always kind of like thinking, oh, how did you get into this, this paper, this argument paper on, I don't know, anything, and how did you find your way into that? And they may have a strategy that I wasn't aware of, or that I had kind of forgotten about. And and vice versa. I come in with a lot of experience. I'm really excited about writing, and I think that can be kind of infectious sometimes. But I think being able to offer them some of the strategies that have worked for me helps them utilize their time as efficiently as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you about helping them gain confidence in trusting their voice and following their voice.
Mhm.
Because even if they don't turn out to be writers, that will carry with them no matter what career they pursue.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
I hate to say this, but we're getting ready to wind this down. But I want to talk about two more things. One thing about the importance of building an author brand, and how did you approach that? How did you approach social media? How did you approach your website, which you have an incredible website? I loved it because I did a deep dive in it. Talk
Oh.
about, was this something that you did before you started submitting your books and trying to find an agent the first time? Or was it kind of after you got your deal with your first small press that you kind of had to play catch up?
So, gosh, I have been on social media for a while, but I haven't really. I used it just more for personal stuff,
Mhm.
like to, so that my mom's in, California, and here I am on the East Coast. And so she needs to be able to see pictures of the family and stuff. And Facebook is often kind of the best way to do that, or keep up
Mhm.
with old high school friends and, things like that. But I did have to pivot when I started really getting serious about, my writing, and fortunately, it was before publication. I had worked on another book that is now in a drawer, which many of us have, but that book got me into this writing contest called Pitch Wars. Did you ever
Mhm.
hear about Pitch Wars?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So I ended up working with I got into that, and I ended up working with another novelist who I've become very dear friends with, Margarita Montemore. She wrote Una Out of Order, and her latest book, The Dollhouse Academy, just came out last week. And she's wonderful, and her support, her sort of picking me out of all of those other wonderful writers, really made me think, oh, if she's taking me seriously as a writer, I better take myself seriously as a writer. And so I ended up thinking in terms of, okay, I guess I better get a website up. I guess I better, think of ways I could, expand my author brand on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, even though I didn't have really anything to show for it. And it's been a learning experience for sure, because I don't prefer social media to, things like this. Like, I really love talking to other writers. I love talking on podcasts. I love doing library talks and things like that. Those kinds of more intimate conversations are kind of more up my alley, and I'm better at it. But I did end up, on my website, I have an author spotlight. And so I was like, well, if I don't really want to, I don't know, I don't want to be shouting on Instagram every day that, hey, I've got a book out, buy my book,
Yeah.
buy my book. I don't
Mhm.
really want to do that, but I'm happy to do that for other people's books,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it's been really fun. I started the author spotlight, God, 6 years ago, I started it, and I've been doing it basically once a week, every Tuesday,
Oh, wow.
which is release day. Yeah, you guys got to come on. Um, please. But anyway, I do this every week, and that's been really fun, and it's been a way to kind of build, the community at kind of an organic level, instead of just, blasting everybody with my latest book or something. I can blast everybody with my friends' books, so that's definitely more fun. But yeah, I did it before the first book came out, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the
And that
balancing act is hard.
It is. Yes, it is.
But also what you're doing is great because you are creating a community, you're helping other authors. And, Donna and I always talked about this before publication. We had to fill, a year and a half before our books came out of, content. And we didn't want to keep saying, I have a book coming, I have a book coming. And so connecting with other authors, promoting their books, that was a huge thing for the first 2 years of my Instagram profile. And it helped later on when I needed author blurbs. I had started establishing relationships with other
Mhm.
authors. So what you're doing is a great way of anyone who is, trying to get their book out there. That would be a great thing because you're going to make some incredible connections.
Yeah, it's been, yeah, I think for any author, community is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Community is you guys are both with WFWA as well,
Yeah,
right?
we
Yes.
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're terrific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're amazing.
Well, I hate to say it, but we're going to have to wrap this up. And I know that our viewers are going to want to keep up with you on social media. Can you tell us where you can be found and your website?
Sure. Well, it's basically at Sarahlyn Bruck for everything. So sarahlynbruck.com. I'm at Sarahlyn Bruck on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. I'm also on Blue Sky. Not very much. I haven't really dipped my toe in too much with that, but I plan to try and give it a try. But Instagram is kind of probably my favorite
Yeah.
of the social media places. But if you want just more information about me and my books and how to reach out, my website is a really nice place to start.
And it's a great one. So,
Thank
Donna,
you.
can you tell us about our next episode?
Sure. Our next episode, we're going to talk about publishing trends in 2025 and beyond.
Yes. And you can find out more at our website at authorstalkingbookish.com. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, and YouTube. And Sarahlyn, it was a pleasure. We thank you so much. And I think you've given a lot of great tips. And I think you've inspired me to get back to some of my, older manuscripts. So I do appreciate your
Yay.
time and all of your wonderful insights.
Thank you
You
so
so much
much.
for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And I cannot wait to read your book. It sounds fabulous.
or
Thanks.
books, all three. So thanks, everyone. And until next time.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Hope Gibbs.
And I'm Donna Norman Carbone. It's time for you to get to work.
We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks with another tip from your author friends.